Dearest viewers, have you ever wondered if the saying, even the tiniest act of kindness can transform the heart-hearted, is true? If you have, this story will satisfy your curiosity. Stay with me. Let me take you on a ride on the story of Edu. My name is Ta, and I'm yours truly, a content writer and storyteller. From the moment Edu was born, it was clear he was different. On the night that he was born, the air in the village was thick with tension. The rain pounded and pounded relentlessly on the roofs, as if the heavens were giving a warning about his arrival. Mama Edu had fainted immediately after pushing him out. None of her other children had given her labor pain as much as this one did. When he was born, he did not cry like other babies. Instead, he screamed with a fury that no one could quiet, and with no drop of tears. When the mother regained consciousness, her baby was handed over to her, and she placed him on her bosom to feel the warmth of motherly love. As the rain continued to lash against the windows, Edu cried out louder and more relentlessly. His mother tried to be happy and maintain a good cheer, but she knew that something was not right. She dropped her head slowly and prayed that the storm outside the house and the storm inside the baby should be quieted. She felt this heaviness swirling around him, a darkness waiting to be unleashed. It is often said that a mother knows best. Indeed, she knew that this child would bring her pain. She knew that for his sake she will cry. She just knew. However, she promised to show him as much love as she could. Did she keep her promise? We shall see. Days turned into months and into years. Edu grew, but his temperament remained as fierce as it was on the night he was born. As a toddler, he would throw fits of rage that left even the most patient of his caregivers at their wits' end. He was born as a second son to a military father and a trader mother. He was often withdrawn and enjoyed only his company. Because of this, he was easily judged to be rude and mean. His father, Papa Edu, a stern military officer, believed in iron discipline, and so from a young age, Edu was subjected to harsh punishment for every minor infraction. His solution was discipline, swift and harsh. Mama Edu, though a successful businesswoman, was a quiet woman, too afraid of her husband to intervene or raise a finger against her husband's commands. In the village of Edata, wives were to be seen and not heard. She tried to nurture him, but her attempts were met with cold blank stares or violent tantrums, and she could do nothing but watch as her son slowly but consistently slipped further away from the light. Neighbors began to talk. The village began to gossip, wondering if the child was cursed or if he only inherited the worst parts of both families. His senior brother was his direct opposite. He was respectful and humble, the apple of his parents' eyes and the village treasure. Edu was naturally very intelligent. He answered questions that were asked by his teachers in school. He even did some of his older brother's assignments. But by the time Edu was 10, he had already been suspended from school multiple times for fighting, stealing, and disrespecting authority. The village elders warned his parents that he was on a dangerous path, but Papa Edu believed that if beatings would not cure him, more beatings would cure him. Instead, Edu's heart hardened, and by the time he was a teenager, he had become feared and despised by everyone. By 18, Edu had dropped out of school and embraced a life of crime. He led a gang of misfits who terrorized the village. They were extorting money from shopkeepers, stealing livestock and vandalizing homes. His father had long since given up on him, and his mother had withdrawn into herself, leaving Edu to roam unchecked. One night during a village festival, Edu and his gang crashed the event, harassing people and stealing food. When Chuka, a local man known for his temper, confronted him, Edu's response was swift and brutal. He beat Chuka so badly that the man was hospitalized. The entire village was now in fear of Edu, and even the police avoided confronting him. One evening, while Edu was sitting in front of his gang's hideout, An old man approached him. The man was a stranger, someone Edu had never seen before. He was bent with age, but his eyes were sharp. "Edu," the old man said, his voice grave but firm. "There is a darkness in you, but the darkness does not have to win." Edu sneered, amused that this frail old man had the nerve to approach him. But before he could mock him, the man continued, "One day, you will face a choice that will determine the rest of your life. On that day, the fate of your soul will be sealed." Then, without another word, the old man walked away, leaving Edu feeling oddly unsettled. For days, he couldn't shake the old man's words from his mind. A few months later, Edu's gang escalated their violence. They broke into the home of Mama Adobe, an elderly widow who had refused to pay their extortion money. In a fit of rage, Edu destroyed her home and in the process accidentally struck her, causing her to fall and hit her head. When Edu realized she was unconscious, a wave of panic, unlike anything he had ever felt, washed over him. The old woman didn't wake up. Edu fled the scene, his heart pounding. For the first time, he felt true fear. Not fear of being caught, but fear of what he had become. He had always been violent, but this time it felt different. This time it felt like he had crossed a line he couldn't come back from. After the incident with Mama Adobe, Edu disappeared. The village was abuzz with rumors that he had fled to another town, that he had been cursed by the old man, or that the police had finally caught up with him. But none of these were true. Edu had gone into hiding, living in an abandoned shack on the outskirts of the village. Alone, he grappled with guilt and anger, unsure of what to do next. One night, while he lay awake, unable to sleep, he remembered the old man's words, "You will face a choice." Had that moment come? Had he already sealed his fate by hurting Mama Adobe? In the darkness, Edu wrestled with his demons. The village wanted him dead or behind bars. But for the first time in his life, Edu wanted something else. He wanted peace. But how could he find it when he had caused so much pain? That question was the last thing on his mind before he fell asleep. In his sleep, he had a dream. In that dream, he saw himself in a forest. The sun had begun its descent, casting a golden hue over the lush greenery that stretched for miles. He wandered deep into the heart of the forest in search of a rare herb that his mother had asked him to find. As he moved carefully through the bush, his ear picked up a strange sound, something calling to him to come closer. He was afraid, but found himself actually moving closer towards the direction of the sound. Suddenly, a soft but clear voice emerged from behind a thick cluster of shrubs. It was a woman's voice, soothing yet commanding. "Edu," came the voice. He turned, and what he saw was nothing like he had ever seen before. It was a small pool of water, clearer than any water he had ever seen. It was flowing very well, even when he didn't know where to. The voice came again. "Come closer, child of Mother Earth." Edu's legs obeyed even before his mind. As he went closer, his heart began to pound in his chest like a local drum. Yet his eyes were fixed on that pool. "What brings you here?" the voice asked. I'm looking for herbs. My mother needs them." "The herbs that you seek is you. You are what your mother needs to come back home. Your presence will mend her broken heart." Just as he was wondering what was speaking to him and how it knew he was not at home, the voice added, "Remember what the old man said and make the right choice. Make it fast." The voice kept re-echoing, and he sprang up from his sleep. He looked quite exhausted, like someone who had used his feet to travel from Earth to Mars. I guess he found the answer to the last question on his mind before he fell asleep. One morning, after days of hiding, Edu ventured back into the village in secret. He was desperate for food and water. As he slipped through the market, avoiding the main roads, he bumped into a young girl carrying a basket of vegetables. She dropped her basket, and Edu instinctively bent down to pick it up. "Thank you," the girl said softly, looking up at him with kind eyes. Edu was taken aback. She wasn't afraid of him. In fact, she smiled at him, a small, sincere smile that seemed to pierce through the fog of his guilt and anger. For the first time in years, Edu felt something stir in his heart. A glimmer of hope, a spark of something good. Ezinne told him about herself and her family, and that act of love, that simple thank you, that conversation stayed with him. And they continued the rest of the night, gisting and giggling. The love that Ezinne had shown Edu, that tiny spark of compassion, had blossomed into something greater. Edu became a symbol of hope in the village, a reminder that even the most hardened hearts could be softened by love. Later that day, as Edu wandered through the outskirts of the village, he saw Mama Adobe's house from a distance. To his shock, the elderly woman was sitting outside, alive and well. She was frail, but she was moving around, tending to her small garden. Edu couldn't believe his eyes. He thought he had killed her, but here she was, alive and well. The old woman saw him from afar and waved him over. Hesitant and ashamed, Edu approached. "I forgive you, Edu," Mama Adobe said, her voice soft but clear. "I know you didn't mean to hurt me. You have been hurting for a long time, haven't you?" Her words broke something inside him. Edu fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. He had not cried since he was a child, but now he couldn't stop. For the first time, he felt the weight of his actions and the possibility of redemption. Edu knew that forgiveness from Mama Adobe was only the first step. He had wronged many others in the village, and he needed to make amends. With newfound courage, he returned to the market, where the villagers spotted him almost immediately. There was a tense silence, and then murmurs of anger rippled through the crowd. Some called for him to be arrested, others cursed him, but Edu didn't run. Instead, he stood tall and addressed the crowd. "I know I have hurt many of you," he began, his voice steady but full of emotion. "I don't expect your forgiveness, but I want to change. I'm ready to make things right, even if it means facing punishment." The villagers were stunned. Some were still angry, but others, seeing the genuine remorse in Edu's eyes, began to soften. Though many were skeptical at first, the community gradually began to accept Edu's change. Ifeanyi's mother, the woman Edu had once harassed, was the first to forgive him. She invited him to her home for dinner one evening, saying, "No one is beyond redemption." From that day, Edu turned a new leaf and stopped causing trouble. He was even known to be advising children that are stubborn, but with love and understanding. He became a blessing to his family and the rest of the people of Edata community. And that is the end of my story. What has the story taught you? It has taught me that nobody is beyond redemption. It is never too late to turn a new leaf. It has also taught me that the tiniest act of kindness can soften the hard-hearted. Finally, forgive those who have hurt you and forgive yourself, and let love lead. Thank you for staying and having a moment with me. Please hit the subscribe button, like and drop your lessons in the comment section. I'll be waiting for you there. See you in my next video. Bye.